Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Jesus Barone. Welcome to Let 'em Bacon Podcast. So, today we have another episode 8. We're going to be talking about drawing the line. What are we drawing the line on? Well, current events that are happening, anti-Semitism, terrorist sympathizers. Where do we draw the line? Stick around. The world's shit. It's on fire, literally. Everything is chaos. Our streets are chaos. The world is burning. Israel is in disaster. Gaza is in disaster. The Middle East is looking like another war zone all over again. Ukraine and Russia still going at it. We have inflation. We have all kinds of issues. We have problems with our southern border. Immigration. We're having mass shooters now. We're having potential mass shooters showing up in Colorado dead by suicide without having hurt anybody, which is weird. So all around the world is just upside down, right? Protests are everywhere. Pro-terrorism protests are everywhere, which is even the most boggling thing, especially when we see it here in the United States. Here in the United States of America, where these people are enjoying the benefits of freedom, are fighting for terrorists for their cause. What kind of world are we in right now? Now, I don't know about you guys, but me as an American, it's kind of hard to find that sweet spot, right? We all read the Constitution, we all read our God-given rights, and we question what is our role for us people that are peace-loving, calm people. You don't see me out protesting out there. You don't see me out there waving Israeli flags and shouting at the other party and everything. So what is my role? And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are right now sitting that are just as confused and as tired of everything. And they're like, I have to do something, but what do I do? We're afraid of doing anything because we're afraid of being landed on a homegrown terrorist group. We're afraid to do anything because we're afraid of possibly crossing a line we don't know we shouldn't cross. What do we do as Americans, especially when we're concerned about our families? We're concerned about our own rights, right? We're concerned about we don't want to be criminals ourselves. We want to be law-abiding citizens that follow the rule of law. So what does that look like? Right. Right now, free speech is everything. Free speech is the umbrella for everything right now, and it's not supposed to be like that. That was not the intended purpose for the First Amendment right. Where do we draw the line when it comes to the First Amendment right? As a patriot, as a combat veteran, as somebody that believes in the Bill of Rights, it's hard to understand, or it's hard to find that boundary where it's no longer about freedom of speech, but something else. Right. So it's terrorist sympathizing free speech? Supporting a terrorist cause, is that free speech? A terrorist that is a known enemy to the United States, is that free speech? I don't know. I don't think so. The best I could do was do a Google search like every American, right? Literally looked up what is not considered free speech. And what I came up with was a list of words, right, that describes what is not considered free speech. First one being defamation. Second, threats, fighting words, obscenity, harassment, hate speech, incitement, invasion of privacy, commercial disclosure requirements, and false advertisement. I don't know about you, but a lot of the things that we're seeing right now on TikTok, newspaper, media, protest, I am pretty sure that some of these fit those very well because there's a lot of propaganda, which could fall under false advertisement, right? Fake news, false advertisement. It's not protected under free speech. Being anti-Semitist, people hating on a whole Jewish population for their extermination, calling things, for example, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. If you guys don't know the meaning of that, it means no Jews left. That means no more Jewish people. That's hate speech. That's threats. How is that considered freedom of speech? How is that considered that it should be protected under our First Amendment right when you're essentially inciting for a whole nation to revolt against a whole other group of ethnicities? We're not even talking really a country of Israel. We're talking about a people. Because if Israel was to cease to exist, they still would hate the Jewish people. So, how do we stop this? And if you don't believe me, there's already many examples going on right now in the United States. One of them being, it just happened recently in Detroit. Now, right now they're saying that it's quote unquote not related to anti-Semitism. But I don't really believe much of what's being said because it just so happened that it happened after the October 7th attacks in Israel. And what happened? Well, in Detroit, Samantha Woll, 40 years old, she was the board director of Isaac Agree, which is a synagogue, and she was found murdered outside her home with stab wounds. She just so happens to be a Jewish person. Coincidence? I don't know. I don't think so. What happened at Cooper Union College in New York City? On 25th October, security staff had to lock students in the library. Because why? Because pro-Palestinians were harassing, shaking the doors, trying to get in, to get at these Jewish students. What is that? Is that free speech? Is that not causing threats or fear on somebody else? Is that not inciting violence on another group of people? Where do you draw that line? Where? We're seeing pro-Hamas protests in New York, Washington, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Chicago, just to name a few. Now, I'm not trying to bring up their political parties for these particular cities, but let's make it very apparent. These cities are not very conservative. These cities have some of the strongest gun control laws that exist. The people whom back these cities where these protests take place, they're the same people that are trying to take away our means to defend ourselves. But yet they are the ones that are catering more towards who? Terrorists. These are the people that are catering towards having an open border, but are also trying to disarm us. What is that called, if not a conspiracy proven right? Where do you draw a line? Where? See, we live under this fear, under this idea that government's going to protect us from everything. And everyone that even thinks about talking about protecting our country through forms other than government sources is considered a homeland terrorist. Now, let me be clear. I don't think there is one person that loves this country that really wants to ever go that route. I don't think so. I think that everybody in this country wants to live a very peaceful, law-abiding, freedom of being a human, essentially, existing, pursuit of happiness, right? Nobody wants to take those actions. But there is a line that's very close to teetering onto the citizens having to do something. But what is that line? What is that line, I ask myself. Constantly we are being told what to do, what not to do, taking our freedoms away. Every time, these same people that are supporting terrorism, right? Because let me tell you something, the reality of domestic terrorism right now is real. The reality is so real, and this is coming from me. I'm not going to be naive about it. Look at my skin color. I'm brown. What does that mean? That means I have Mexican roots. What does that mean? That at some point my family came down here. Did they come here illegally? Yes, they did. Let me tell you something about that, though, because then therein lies my experience with having to deal with a lot of the nonsense that the media puts out. Because my own people know for a fact that a lot of the people that are crossing are dangerous. I hate the hypocrisy that the Hispanic community has that, oh no, they are all hardworking people. I'm going to call that bullshit. That's fucking lies. They're not all hardworking people. There's people coming in from other countries, Iran, Syria, Africa, Venezuela, everywhere. China had a 900% increase in people coming over. China doesn't like us. China is a superpower that's teamed up with Russia and Iran and North Korea. They don't like us. North Korea is starting to provide weapons to Hamas. They've been spotted. North Korea is also supporting Russia, with Russia depleting its resources for its own weapons. Now North Korea is supplying Russia. China is supplying Russia. Why is it that these military-age males, I hate saying military-age males, but why is it that these young men are coming over to our country with no kids, no family, no nothing, just by the swarm? What is our responsibility? Where is that line? Where do we draw that line? Because of people, my Mexican people, back in the 70s, 60s, 80s, when they were crossing, it was onesies and twosies, and they were coming to work. They were coming to work to make a better life for themselves. Therein lies the difference. Therein lies what is different with what is currently going on right now and what happened in the 80s when my dad crossed. It's no longer about finding work. It's about cartels who get black market weapons from whatever deals are being made in Ukraine and the rest of the world, and all the drugs, and they're smuggling Chinese people, Chinese men, to our country for about $35,000 a pop. Now tell me, who can afford $35,000 if it's not government sponsored? Per person we're talking. $35,000 per person for the drug cartels to get their coyote to smuggle in Chinese people. $35,000 per person, and there is a 900% increase of Chinese immigrants alone. I know from experience, these coyotes that are crossing to the border, they will call family members and say, if you don't give us more money, we're going to kill your family member. I know from knowledge and personal experience that these people will rape and murder people and just leave them out in the desert. For who? For the actual coyotes to eat them. I'm talking the dog, not the smuggler. I know for a fact that there's drugs coming in by tons, weapons coming in by tons, weapons that, I don't know about you, and I don't know if you remember during the Fast Furious operation when Obama supplied the cartels with weapons, our weapons. Why are we being so naive? Why aren't we getting ourselves ready for this possible attacks on the home front? Because it's going to happen. You know how it's going to look like? A mass shooter here and there. You know what it's going to look like? A stabbing here and there. Before you know it, it's going to be multiplied in more and more and more. And what's going to happen? There's going to be a call to disarm the people. Disarm who? Us, the law-abiding citizens, the people that need to be protected. They're going to try to disarm us. Where do we draw the line? Where do we stop this nonsense? This is not computing. First, you allow for an open border for terrorists to come in. Then you create an education system where our own students are becoming indoctrinated by terrorists. Then you're allowing, for example, the UN now, as of the day of this video, today being Halloween, October 31st, the UN chairman for the United Nations as far as Human Rights Social Forum is Iran for human rights. Where do we draw the line? UN being the organization that the United States pays $12.5 billion. Where do we draw the line? We're being seen as fools. We are suckers. Yet these people out here can go out there and cause havoc. All these pro-Palestinian, Black Lives Matter. And I'm going to be careful here. I'm all about black people having protections because we all know we have to protect our own. Whether you're black, white, brown, Asian. We all matter, man. We all matter. But the Black Lives Matter organization in itself that is pro-Hamas, where do we draw the line? It is something that we really need to talk about. As Americans, we're being very, very complacent. It's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen here. We have the police. We have the army. We have the navy. We have the best air force in the world. What are you going to do when that person that's killing everybody is dressed like everybody else and it's just going around? We already see it in mass shooters. What if it's 10 of them? What if it's 20 of them? What if they're just running around wild in the streets? I keep saying this over and over. And before this last mass shooter happened in Maine, I just had an episode where I talked about that. People need to be ready. We are so complacent. Nobody had a gun. Nobody in Maine had a gun during those times. Nobody was ready. But yet they want to come after the people that are prepared with weapons. Why? Why are you going to try and take away the ability for myself to protect my family? Why? I'll tell you what, that's very sus, as the kids say nowadays. That's very suspicious. Why are you trying to take away my freedom to protect myself? Because I tell you something, the difference between me and the people that I know that are like me, from the people in Maine or other places where there's been mass shooters, is that we actually carry. But we also do other things. We don't deliberately go into places and sit in areas that are potentially where we're going to be victims, right? Right in the entrance? No. In a crowded area? No, we're not in a crowded area. Do we go and go to these concerts where there's potentially going to be the target for something such a mass shooter? Nope. So why don't you see more people that are armed engage active shooters? Because I'll tell you why. Because we think. Because not only do we remove ourselves from a situation, but when we're out in public, we have a means to protect ourselves. It's not rocket science, people. It's not. We have to understand that our complacency is what's getting us. We're going to be able to respond to that. Oh, the U.S. will take care of us. The government, the police will take care of us. What's our role, man? What is our purpose then as Americans with rights? What the frick do we have rights for? So we can make YouTube videos about, oh, this is an AK-47. Look how cool it shoots. Oh, this is an AR-15. Oh, look at my cool man gear. What is it for, if not to protect our family? How do we protect ourselves? You have to educate yourself. Knowledge is power. It goes beyond TikTok. It goes beyond YouTube. It goes beyond CNN, Fox News. It's about zooming out, people. It's about zooming out and looking at the big picture and playing chess with the world. It's about all these different alliances that are being made currently around the world. And it's not to our benefit. It's not to the benefit of the United States. These countries, the United Nations and all the posse that they have, they're trying to undermine the United States. Even though we give them $12.5 billion a year. Even still, they're trying to formulate a plot to overtake us and not make us the top country in the world. So how do we protect ourselves? How do you protect your family? How do we protect ourselves as Americans? Well, first things first, we have to call it what it is. We have a problem. We have a problem with law-abiding citizens speaking up. We have all these protesters and they're just causing havoc and chaos on our streets. It's a matter of time before they start looting businesses and breaking windows all over again like they did in 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021. It's just a matter of time. But we keep letting these people do this. So what do we do? How do we protect ourselves? Well, for one, we have to stand up for what is right. We have to tell our government to secure our borders. No more people coming in. That's enough. Until we put a process in place so that we can vet people and allow only good people. We've already let in too many people. People that we don't know where they're coming from. So as Americans, if you're a protector for your family, make a plan. If you don't have a weapon, buy one. Don't let the government tell you that you can't buy a weapon. Don't be intimidated by the fact that, yes, unfortunately, there's been a lot of mass shootings, but don't let them intimidate you into having hate towards a weapon that it's not the weapon's fault. You have to educate yourself, protect your family, learn how to do first aid, learn how to shoot a gun. Learn how to do martial arts. Have a plan. Where do you go with your family in case of an emergency? Who do you call? Who do you stay with if you're not home? What do you do if you're in a place, for example, in a protest and things go wild and it becomes a riot? What do you do if your workplace is all of a sudden locked down and you can't get your kids from school? What do you do? What do you do if all of a sudden they find out that you're a Israeli supporter and now you're being targeted? What do you do if they start finding out that you're a Christian and you have certain beliefs that don't agree with the narrative that these pro-terrorists are pushing around? What do you do? What do you do if you see somebody getting beat on the street just because they're Jewish? What do you do? We have to draw the line, people. We have to draw the line. Buy a tourniquet. Buy ammo. Buy food. Buy whatever you have to. Stop going by this stigma or this narrative that preppers are crazy or having any kind of supplies in your house just in case of a rainy day is crazy. That's ridiculous. It goes beyond common sense. Stop feeding into these people stupid ideas. Protect your family. Protect yourself. See the world for what it is. Call it out. Stand up against evil. Draw the line. We are American. We are law-abiding. We love this country. We want to see it grow and succeed. So let's do what we have to do. And all I'm asking is that we do it lawfully, respectfully. But we have to stand up somehow. Again, my name's Jesus Barone. Let 'em Bacon Podcast. Take care, guys.